YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I am back in Total War Warhammer 2. Folks, the dwarves are like a big iron onion. They have layers. Layers and layers, you know? Now, personally, I prefer to have my onions in the sliced and fried format that you would find at Outback Steakhouse, but since that's not available in Warhammer 2, there are other ways that you can deal with a dwarf onion, if you will. Let's check out this dwarf onion. It's a pretty typical one in many ways, though there are lots of different formats in which a dwarf onion can exist. We've got 3 miners with blasting charges. These are disrupt a mainline infantry charge and help deal damage from a cheap unit. Dwarves suck at attacking. Absolutely suck. Terrible. I know, it's a grudging. I'm in the book, but their melee attack stats are awful. Just really bad. Outside of hammers, you're really not going to find a decent melee attack on a dwarf unit unless Thorgrim's abilities are all active. And even still, I wouldn't call it amazing. Now, this dwarf army is actually just led by a lord. There's no other leaders, though they do have 2 grudge throwers, probably throwing the grudges that I just dealt. There's a cannon. They're protected by some dwarf warriors. There's slayers on either flank. A couple of them, in fact, on one flank. And then we're going to have longbeards for a little more durable infantry unit. But even longbeards, look at that, 30 melee attack. That sucks. That's lower than a standard Empire swordsman. That's right. These guys just aren't going to land a lot of attacks. Now, they do have a lot of defense. But this is why when you're playing the dwarves, you can sometimes be frustrated in the sense like, good gosh, can't my guys kill anything? The answer is no. You're a dwarf. You do that with guns and artillery. So, the Lizardman player over here, Reptile King, as you know, he's playing his namesake. And he's been trying to develop a good anti-dwarf build. Yes, you can bring monsters against the dwarves, and it can be effective. Personally, I like to bring Bastillodons. I find them like a good all-purpose unit. However, that also focuses some of your funds into single-unit entities, which the dwarves can shoot with artillery, or guns, or other things. And in this case, his build is more infantry-centric. He's going to have a Skink Priest Lore of Heavens with Curse of the Midnight Wind. Now remember, Curse of the Midnight Wind takes away 30 armor. And it also takes away a considerable amount of melee attack. I believe it's like, I don't remember the exact amount. We'll look at it here in a minute, but it's significant. So then there's some skink cohorts and red-crested skinks. And then behind them, some Saurus warriors. Now, Saurus warriors do tremendous weapon damage. Now, you'll see their melee attack is pretty crap, too. But they make up for it with good weapon damage. The dwarves don't have that. So Saurus warriors, shielded, decent armor. Now on the flanks we're going to have some feral cold ones and cold one riders. Both of these are armor piercing units, and it makes them particularly well suited to dealing with dwarf skirmishers, because dwarf skirmishers tend to have some pretty solid armor, like thunderers, and cheaper light cavalry can fall apart in the attempt. Let's take a look. This is dwarves doing their onion thing here, right? The onion holds its layers, and that's what it needs to do in order to survive, so that the missile units can deal their damage. Obviously, outflanking is the most sensible solution to this type of thing, but sometimes on the flank, the dwarves can be difficult to deal with. You're going to notice a Curse of the Midnight Wind here. That is 26 melee attacks, so these dwarves are nerfed into the dirt. And we're going to get these armor-piercing cavalry units and light cavalry units plunging in for the Lizardmen. And before he did that, though, he was able to busy the Slayers with Skinks and red-crested Skinks. This is good. You want these Slayers away from your cavalry units and let them do the damage in the background. Red-crested Skinks will trade particularly well against dwarves. Anytime you have access to cheap armor piercing, they tend to trade well against the dwarves. It's a nightmare for the dwarves. Not the only nightmare they face, because obviously chariots are probably the #1 nightmare that they face. But losing their armor, which is one of their only good attributes for the Dawi, and I mean only. Did I say only? Because I kind of meant it. I don't know, you guys can comment and see if I got that across clearly. They have a shield, and they have armor. That's pretty much the benefits of the dwarves. So, if you lose armor to the Curse of the Midnight Wind, that be bad, folks. It's bad. And you can see that it plays to the Lizardmen advantage. Whenever it's overcast like this, there's a huge area of effect, and it can debuff a significant number of dwarf units all at once. Like, look at this Longbeard, all the way down to 4 attack and only 70 armor. So the Saurus Warrior is going to cause considerably more damage, and this lasts for almost a minute when it's overcast. Now, the other unit that I didn't catch here, but it's an important one, is the Umbral Tide. Now, the dwarves do not tend to have fast units. They do have slayers, but since you have enough skinks here, you can kind of offset the slayers. And then the Umbral Tide is a very key part to a build like this. It has armor-piercing missiles and armor-piercing melee, plus it's a skirmish unit, which means that if you end up with a pesky gyrocopter, this can help take care of it, so you don't just get shot from the air the whole time. So the Umbral Tide, a very nice pick here. They can skirmish from decent distance, and you can see them on the flank here, because as they shoot into the flank of engaged dwarf infantry, they will cause tremendous damage, because the dwarves are kind of bottled up, and when they get bottled up, these fireballs really able to do their thing. So the Umbral Tide, a very solid pick. Look at that, 25 kills there. So they are getting some work done. And again, you can see this cavalry is going to be useful all game. Armor Piercing is the name of this build. Armor Piercing, spread out in a thin line, get all the way to the dwarf flanks. Yes, you'll take a bit of a throttling in the center as you come in, but if you can keep the different pieces of the dwarf build busy, you can start using the different pieces of your build to your advantage. So I like this build from Reptile King. It's a nice use of the units available to Lizardmen, and honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're cool. I love dinosaur builds. It's probably the best thing about the Lizardmen. I mean, what other factions do you get to have dinosaurs with freaking lasers on their backs? Lasers! Okay, yeah, I know. Bad impressions. But yes, the dinosaurs are great. But the Lizardmen do have some uniquely good infantry. Saurus warriors are some of the best mid-tier infantry in the game. They have a very nice mid-tier armor with shields at a reasonable price, and they deal hefty melee damage, and they can be supported by any number of skink priests or slans and make them even more effective. And then combine that with the fact that there's now red-crested skinks. You have skinks with javelin cohorts, you have chameleon skinks. There's a lot of skinks, folks. Whole lot of skinks. So yes, I like these Lizardmen builds. It's cool to see the Lizardmen having a little more capability in their tool belt, as for the longest time they were really gimped with about the only thing being in their favor was Bastillodons and Saurus warriors. So it's kind of cool to see them be able to branch out a bit. Now there are a few slayers here who are going to fulfill their slayer oaths, which I guess involved being killed by really angry lizards. These lizards are not happy. The dwarves were not part of the great plan. Unless, like, part of the great plan involved some exercise? Maybe that's what this is. Lizard exercise. They look like they're, you know, practicing. Biting heads off, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, thanks to Reptile King for sending this in. So, a couple points to make here real quick. Think about the factions you like to play. Reptile King's always playing Lizardmen, so he's always thinking about ways to play well with Lizardmen. It doesn't hurt sometimes if you're trying to learn the game, whether it's in campaign or in multiplayer, to stop, maybe play the same faction for a while, play them a lot, learn how to pick out the strengths of a faction, how to use them to their advantage, and more importantly, learn their weaknesses. This is going to help you be a better player, whether it's in single or multiplayer. If you know the weaknesses of your faction, you'll know how to not provide those weaknesses to your enemies, whether they're AI or other players. So it's a fun way to learn the game. If you haven't done it, sometimes what can be good is pick a faction, play their campaign, play them in multiplayer. If you don't know where to find multiplayer battles, or quick battle is too rancid, then go on my Discord. There's a link to it. It's free. You can just join it. There's no catches. Go join the Discord, find people to play matches with. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thanks for those who are supporting me. We are about to get to 250,000 subscribers. We are under 1,000 subscribers to go, I think, by the time this goes up. If not, it's going to be very close. Folks, we could easily have 1,000 subscribers right here tonight. That's right. When I look at the stats on this video, there will be probably 4,000 people watching this that aren't subscribed. Maybe even more. If you folks enjoyed it, I'm not saying you have to. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Let's rocket past that milestone, because I have an awesome celebration planned for it, and I really want to share the celebration with you all, but we got to get there first, and we can go on to the next one. And guess what? More celebrations, more fun stuff for you all, and keep an eye out for the Steam gift cards. If you subscribe and click the bell, and you get here first in the notification, someone won a $20 Steam card just for clicking on the notification. So I suggest you jump into, I want you all to win some Steam bucks. Anyway, thanks for being here. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I can't wait to see you all next time in some more Total War Warhammer 2 action.